Public 5G has been around for years in our phones, but private 5G networks are now starting to become the technology of choice for wireless communication across many industries. Let's find out why. This is Momentum Talks, a show about smart factories. So welcome everyone. With me today I have Arnup from Atlas Copco, Hakim Achouri from Airbus, and Sebastian Elmgren from Ericsson.
Thank you. Thank you.
So all of you are working on the front line of implementing 5G on assembly lines. So first, how crucial is really connectivity on a modern factory floor?
It's super crucial. I mean, today's manufacturing is very much data-driven. So it's all about collecting data, analyzing data, and acting upon that data. And you need to have a flexible and reliable communication to tie all those activities together in order to have your data-driven production.
Yeah, it's the foundations for us as well. I mean, we build planes and we hand digital tools to everybody, and the operators need high performance today to be able to deliver their task. You know, it's a commodity today. If you build a new shop floor, a new building, it's like having tap water. It's having good connectivity.
And we collect a lot of data. These tools, they actually store 4,000 data points for every tightening they do. And because of that, it's so super important that communication works. So these tools are now equipped with 5G because of that.
I mean, I normally need to explain to my colleagues in the telecom business. They say, well, I mean, why do somebody put 5G into a screwdriver? That must be the stupidest tool in the box. It's quality critical. I mean, if you don't have, green light on all the screws on a station, you cannot move the car to the next station and your main production line stops. So any interruption in the connectivity, that means production stops. So that's also, extremely important here.
And it's not only quality critical. There are screws tightening your seatbelt, so it's actually safety critical.
Exactly. I understood there are legal requirements for storing some of this data to prove that you've done it right. And I imagine, for the airplanes, it must be the same. You need to prove that you've done everything right.
Correctly, and so you have this quality checks after each operation, but also, 5G could enable more use cases, typically finding the tool itself, by doing some magic algorithms and triangulation in the shop floor. And that would help the operator find the tool, because sometimes they spend an hour to fetch the tool to start working. So
often when we go out in industries, we overestimate how digitalized they are. And what we see is the main means of communication is still pen and paper. So we've seen a German car manufacturer, they were using 5 tons of paper every year just to keep production running. You might ask yourself, why are they still on pen and paper? And then it's because they haven't had a reliable enough means of communication. Pen and paper is not very efficient, but it's reliable, it's there.
But 5G has been around for a while now. What is it that is making people now see 5G as the solution to connecting factories?
I think it's a couple of things that are coming together now, and I would say the most important thing is that we're starting to see an industrial ecosystem. Before we see consumer side products, now we are actually seeing industrial products, and that is what the industry has been waiting for, to be able to buy 5G native devices from the vendors that they're used to buying from, with the service agreements that they already have in place. That really accelerates. And then on the other hand, it's also the accessibility of spectrum, because that's what we need for 5G, to have the right to transmit on a certain frequency. And governments around the world now are dedicating spectrum for industrial use cases, which means that you can have your own private 5G network for your factory with the increased security and increased control that leads to. And I think those kind of things coming together is what's accelerating this in the industrial world now.
If you start handing digital tools to the shop floor, if connectivity stops because of interference or very bad coverage, then you cannot operate anymore. So this is very fundamental. This is what 5G is solving today.
And all the wireless has been there for flexibility. It's been there for many years, and the flexibility is needed, but you need to be able to rely on it too. We have had lots of input from customers on doing some research on this, and we actually see that up to 30% of interruptions that happen in production, they have a relationship with the wireless connectivity. So there is for sure a problem that needs to be addressed, and that can be addressed by better technology.
Yeah.
So we're pushing technology to its limit, and we're also adding more and more connected devices on the shop floors. But every time we're connecting devices, we have to consider cybersecurity. So how secure is actually the private 5G network, Sebastian?
So it's inherently, very secure. We build on the SIM card technology, a physical security key that we put inside the devices with all the credentials that it's needed. So it's a very secure way, and also centralized way of handling security.
And you need to think also the simplicity to enable the security. The security is possible to get in other networks too, but with a lot of effort. To secure, for example, these tools on the line, basically you just put in the SIM card, which is the key, has the certificates and all credentials, and putting in the SIM card creates the communication channel and secures it at the same time. It's done in seconds.
We with 5G are able today also to limit and restrict the areas, for example. Say, for example, this group of SIM cards will stay in this shop floor. So if you take them out, they stop working. So this kind of helps in the overall cybersecurity assessments and so forth.
So we clearly have a lot of benefits by using private 5G networks. But I can't imagine that it's very cheap to implement. So how have you been working with figuring out a good ROI for 5G networks, Hakim?
It's never a simple question, ROI, but take it this way. If you have white spots or, bad coverage in a hangar or a shop floor, how much time the user or the operator will waste time by, trying to find the right place to connect and offload its data for operational data. If you take only if you gain only 10 minutes, per day, multiplied by 360, it's already a big ROI.
Yeah, we had an interesting case from Korea here. It was a warehouse situation, and they were running 5G hand scanners, and then they usually have Wi-Fi, and now they're moving over to 5G. On the Wi-Fi network, they were doing scans, waiting 2-3 seconds for a response from SAP, 2-3 seconds, or walk a meter to get coverage or pushing in extra time. Nobody was really measuring that. But when they started to compare for 5G, it all added up to 20% of the time that we was waiting for the network. So 20% increased productivity, then you start to see the ROI it's quite good.
Sure. Reliability is key here sometimes. Just imagine the high-paced production in automotive and car manufacturing. Any interruption there may actually cause a disturbance on the line, leading to hundreds of thousands of dollars in costs. And this typically happens. The technology used today is not always built for mobility. It's made for small movements. But as you move along a line or within a station or behind a car or a tractor that you are building, you may lose the connection and causing these micro interruptions.
We had an example in, we've refurbished a Wi-Fi system in a nice shop floor. We did it perfectly well. We had checked the quality after the deployment. Everything was working perfectly. And then suddenly 6 months later, the plant manager calls the service and says it's not working anymore. So we send the field engineers and we figure out that somebody just put the shelf next to the access point. So this is where Wi-Fi, inherently is a less performance technology compared to 5G.
Yeah, and the 5G networks, the specifications there are for the Japanese high-speed trains. So that's what they're supposed to do. So as long as you stay under 400 kilometers an hour.
Not only Japanese, though.
French trains.
I actually worked on the Shinkansen trains in the past. So.
Then you know. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're coming from and bringing that into the factories now. So I think that's putting the bar there.
So you spoke a little bit about spectrums earlier, and Hakim, I know you have some challenges when it comes to the global spectrums. How have you been handling that at Airbus?
We have 4 countries connected. We have 5 sites, and in each site, the biggest sites are about 20 plants. So it's becoming really huge, right? So we need indeed to have a harmonized approach when we deal with the spectrum. but we need to move on, so we cannot wait. So even if it's different, we move on. In Spain, we use still a 4G spectrum today, but we are pushing, the governments, the regulators to harmonize all this stuff through our contribution to ITU and CEPT and so forth. My dear colleagues are doing this on a daily basis. Correct. Sometimes in other countries where the regulations is different, China, for example, you have to act differently. You have to combine it with a lease spectrum from a telco. That could work as well. You have different business models. You have RAN sharing models as well. It has challenges, but you need to move on.
Ola, is this a question that you meet a lot from our customers?
On spectrum?
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Those have started. They kind of know how to act in their country, but it always starts somewhere in a global organization. And once they are to scale, as you have started, they meet these challenges that not every region or country around the world acts the same. And you mentioned US. It's both very easy and complicated there, but for one part, very easy, because they are having a CBRS band where you don't even need to apply with the regulator. You can set up a 5G network on your own, as long as you just report what you are doing. I'm setting up it here. You connect it to a server online, and off you go. So it can be really simple, and I think we see more and more initiatives in this direction to kind of democratize the spectrum in that sense.
And what other questions do your customer usually come with?
How do I get started? And there we see that the getting started today is easy. It wasn't, I guess, 5-6 years ago, but today it's very easy. There is an ecosystem maturing, many suppliers and system integrators taking a role, helping out with that first installation and being experts in radio planning for 5G networks, which is not exactly the same as for Wi-Fi networks.
And I think it's also evolved when it comes to understanding where do we get the value from 5G. In the beginning, maybe we're looking at very complex use cases with all the bells and whistles of 5G, but we see it's often a quite fundamental use cases, as we've discussed here. I mean, flexibility, reliability, and security, coverage are the things that are actually creating value. And then more high-profile use cases like XR and so on, they can come later, but there's a lot of good cases already at the beginning that doesn't need to be too complex.
Yeah.
So it's easy to get started, it's reliable, it's secure, it's flexible. But what are the problems and risks we are seeing with 5G?
Again, there's still a lot of system integrations to start to connect all the things. I mean, everything is not 5G native yet. So yes, the screwdriver is super. We see a big traction there, but there are, if you want to have a 5G native AGV or something, that's not available. You need to build that for yourself, and it becomes an integration project. And that is kind of slowing things down.
Correct. And this is also, you need to influence internally. You have to push it into your procurement processes. So the AGV example is a good one, because the plant manager will buy an AGV, but if it doesn't think about 5G, it comes late, and then you have to adapt your AGV to 5G. So this is very important as well.
The fact is that we're discussing a transition here, right? From one technology for connectivity towards 5G. How do you work to integrate private 5G networks into your existing IT infrastructure?
The challenge here is we're starting to connect things that hasn't been connected before. Normally your IT infrastructure in many cases it's built for a standardized laptop with a known operating system, known firewall and everything. And now we say, and now here's a screwdriver, here's an infrared camera, and here's a robot. And the IT department says, okay, what operating system are you using and what firewalls? I don't know. You need to think about how you're handling that, and not just applying what you do in your office environment to the factory, because they go to different requirements of security there.
You need to think about it and not underestimate the effort in the global IT integration of 5G in your IT organization. If you do so, you will waste time, and you'll have to build it anyway at some point.
Right, so we've had 3G, we've had 4G, now we have 5G. What are the risks that we will have 6G and throw 5G out of the window in the near future?
They are actually coexisting and just filling and addressing new use cases. So, I mean, the networks that we're discussing here, they do support 4G as well. It's a 4G, 5G network. So from our perspective, it's really just we have added on the capability for new use cases there, which means that you can, I mean, utilize the often cheaper 4G devices for those use cases, but that's I mean, enough. And then you add on 5G devices for where you need a 5G performance. And with 6G, it will be the same. Then it will be new performances for use cases we haven't even thought about, but that would just complement and be an add-on. Handling the use cases we do today with 5G, that's enough for, that will 5G do for 20, 30 years from now. So it's very much a future-proof technology.
6G is aiming for great new things, not always critical for these environments. So eventually, I think also manufacturing industry will innovate on that, and we will see that there is good use cases for 6G, but that's in 5 to 10 years time, I guess.
For me, it's not anymore about the G, and what drives it is the use case or the killer app. You never know in 5 years where you will be, but obviously if there is a killer app, we will swap to 6G.
It's about mobility and reliability and this flexibility. That's what's really unlocking lots of power now. As you say, when new technology adds new capabilities, innovation will happen and new use cases will arise. But it's a bit in the future, I think. It's like 5-10 years away.
And on that note, I would like to say thank you so much for joining me here today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
So here's some of the benefits of private 5G and smart factories. You can trust that the connection remains, even behind steel or concrete structures. Great coverage enables flexible production, and you get the highest security with less effort. And 5G technology is already being used in manufacturing today. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to Momentum Talks for more episodes.